This is a Ducati 848, and in my opinion, still one of the best looking sports bikes around. Because everything about it just sits right. The proportions, the stance, the way it can do absolutely nothing but stand there and still look aggressive and fast. And it feels like a proper sports bike. Your legs are pinned back, the bars are extremely low, you're right over the tank. This is how super sports bikes should look and should feel. And then you get to the engine. It sounds exactly what you imagine a Ducati should. 134 brake horsepower with 96 Newton meters of torque at 8,250 revs. When you get to that power band, this thing flies. Weighing only 168 kilos curb weight, it manages to get to 160 miles per hour. Now with its 90-degree L-twin engine, the body and the framework are both exactly the same from the 848 and the 1098. The design famously done by Ducati's Giandro Fabbro. So if you're looking for slightly more power, you jump on the 1098. If you want something that's that middleweight step for Ducati, I think this is your one. However, it isn't perfect. I will just say it is not the most comfortable thing in the world. Sitting in this position for me really does give me a cramp in the hip. And if you like me and you don't ride a lot of super sports bikes, you will find your wrists getting knackered. But those negatives aren't actually negatives. Just because I get a cramp doesn't mean anything at all. This bike wasn't designed for British roads. It was designed for the track, and that is where it shines. Basically, the 848 and the 1098 are both track-built bikes with lights, indicators, and have been made road legal. If you want something powerful, raw, extremely well-balanced, light, then I think this is the bike for you. Well, here we are on the 848, cruising at 29 miles an hour, fully loaded over the tank. Now, I am 6 foot tall, and I have a very long, I have a 74-inch reach with my arms. Like, I've got very long arms for my height, and this is a proper reach. You know, I feel like I'm very heavy on my wrists while riding this bike, but I'm going to start pinching my knees a little bit better. And you know, I'm not a super sports rider. However, you can't dismiss the fact that this bike is so good looking, so awesome to hear. Like, the sound quality, the soundtrack of this bike is honestly probably the best I've ever been on, genuinely. This or maybe a Bretali. So this bike is a very, very good in-between for anyone that's jumping from around the 80-90 horsepower mark but doesn't want to get, you know, into the 1000cc ranges. It's still, don't get me wrong, a weapon. And I mean, the cornering on this, granted it's only a roundabout, but you can just, it just wants to tip so easy. Genuinely, I think this is just like the nicest sound quality. This is why Harley riders have fat cans on the end of their bikes, because they're not listening to music like you guys with quiet bikes. they're listening to the soundtrack of an engine. Same with all these super sport riders. You know, bikes at this caliber with crazy exhaust systems. This Arrow exhaust system just sounds unbelievable. What does it sound like through the little bit of the tunnel? Oh yeah. The soundtrack on this thing is awesome. Absolutely awesome. I'll tell you what, my wrists hurt at low speeds because that's what the bike's, you know, not meant for, but what it is meant for, it's not gonna hurt. Oh, third gear is lovely. This
cyclist is going to know I'm here. This bike was described to me as unloaded, and I think that is spot on. It just feels raw. Jesus Christ. Like my Speed Twin goes like a stink, but as does this, man. This really does. And I'm not pulling this back the full way, because if I do, front wheel's gonna fly up. And we're not here for that. But for smaller riders, like in height, I think this bike is a perfect fit. I think I'm a little bit big for it. I need a bike that's physically a little larger. And again, being 6 feet tall, I mean, there's plenty of you out there that probably have these bikes or the 1098 that are 6 foot tall plus and say, I'm fine with it, but you guys are better than me. I had to do warm up, nice bit of yoga before getting on this bike with my hip. Yeah, a lot of you guys that are 6 feet tall probably like, oh, I fit on that bike just fine, whereas I'm having a little bit of sizing issues, but I've got very small torso, very long legs and gangly, might miss the tickle. But when that national sign comes out, downshifting, that getting that engine braking, just so smooth, so smooth. And again, the tank's nice and large. I think it's like 16 litres or something. It's quite a big tank actually. I mean, it's not also like a fuel drinker. It still does like 40-45 to the gallon. Like, that's not horrific at all. Like, not at all. But this is where the bike doesn't want to be. This is where you don't want to be, which is like around the 30 mark, first and second gear. Just, it's okay for a little bit, but like staying there for a few minutes plus, you can feel your wrist aching a tiny bit. And as soon as you unload that throttle, like I'm only talking like up to 40 mile an hour, wrist, no pressure at all on your wrist at all. Don't need to hoot round corners either. I'm not on a quiet bike anymore. Everyone can hear me coming. But realistically, who's buying this bike? Well, I can tell you exactly who is going to be buying a bike like this, and that is my missus, because this is her bike. She has now gotten rid of her Honda CBR 650F and she's upgraded to an 848. Now that is a huge improvement in terms of power delivery. Let's start there. She's gone from a 4-cylinder to a V-twin, well, an L-twin if you want to do the 90-degree crank. And again, if you want a bike that's a little bit even more juicy than this, you go for that 1098. But anyone looking at these and thinking, oh, what kind of kit does it have on it? Nothing. It has nothing. No ABS, no nothing. What a lovely pull though. It's just enough, you know. I didn't let it rip full. I'm letting it rip just enough that the front wheel doesn't want to just spike up, because there's no need for road accidents just yet. A little up is fine. Got it up earlier and I'm not making a fool of myself. But gearing on this thing, phenomenal. Comfort, you know. It's okay. As a super sports goes, I'll tell you what, it's doable. Like for me, that does not like riding super sports. I have to just take that out there. That I have to put that out there. That I'm not a bike lover of this category. This isn't a bike for me. I like riding it for a one-off like now, but I don't want to own one. I want to own like my Speed Twin. I want to own, I don't know, something a bit more comfortable that I can ride for a couple hours, because that's what I need. But for someone that wants a super sports, I tell you what, this is really, really light for a start. Like it corners phenomenally. It just rolls into these corners effortlessly. It is one of those things of, I thought, honestly, like my missus jumping this bike, I was a little nervous for her, thinking an 848, that's, 134 horsepower, give or take the year. Yeah, that's a big jump. And going from a 4 to a twin, a V-twin at that, it's going to be a little bit more pokey from the early offset. But honestly, after the first ride, she just said she loved it, didn't feel overwhelming. Her Honda was actually like 210 kilos-ish, like it's a lot heavier. So she can actually lug this around so much nicer. No problem at all. Like my wrist and my knees, my back, my hips, anything, as soon as you start accelerating on these things, and I'm not talking about going up to silly speeds, I'm just talking about general, national speed kind of limits, or even 50, 40. Wrist, no problem at all. It's just the 20 and 30 zones, these bikes are just like, oh, come on. And it just wants you to go that little bit quicker. But if we're all being honest as well, we all want to go a little bit quicker anyway, we're on bikes. Just be careful. That's kind of like the blueprint to this, isn't it? It's just be careful. And then if you're careful, you can have your fun. Like right now, I'm not leaning at all, the bike just wants to go. Now these aren't big corners or anything like that, but I'm just talking about how the bike just throws itself into the corner, and all you got to do is sit there relaxed and just glide around. And if you want to go further down, it's going to be so easy to pick the bike back up through acceleration because it's just so light. It's not a 190 kilo sports bike, it's 168 curb weight. So who's this bike for? This bike is for anyone that wants to jump up from that 80-90 horsepower range that you're in, because that middle section where 110 horsepower, there's very limited bikes actually in that range for super sports. They more turn into like nakeds, and I don't know why. We were really struggling to find something that she likes for a start at that range, and it was between this and a ZX6R. But a ZX6R, we were finding 2020, 2019, 2018 versions of it with like 9 to 10 owners, and there was still like 7 or 8 grand. Now, this is 18 years old, this motorcycle. Getting a Ducati 848 with like 2 owners, very little miles, it's got 14,000 miles on it, for 5 grand, and it's mint. Every service, double Desmos, all services done with Ducati. It is mint. Like, to me, I'm like, go for the Duke, mate. Long are the days of unreliability with Ducatis. This is the kind of era where, there's not many issues. If you take care of it, there's nothing's really going to happen that's not going to happen with other bikes. Maybe a few electrical things, but that's more like the early 2000s, late 90s Ducatis. This one sings. It's never had issues at all going through services or MOTs, or like no one's pulled up anything. You might burn through your rear tire a little bit quicker because the heat is coming from dead center as the amount of torque on the rear wheel, but barely. Like if you've got a Ducati, you're not really moaning about the price of repairing it, are you? The whole point is to own the Ducati, and that's what she's got, and that's who it's for. And this bike is tremendous.